Ki te uru, whakatakateho ki te tonga, kia makina kina ki uta, kia matara tara ki tai, e hi ake ana te atakura, he tio, he hoka, he hohu, tihe Māori ora. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for attending this morning for a council briefing on the annual plan 2022-23 update. This is the first time that we have taken this approach of putting in the public arena the work that we've been doing in terms of providing guidance to our staff as they build the annual plan off the back of a very extensive long-term plan process. I'll leave Peter to tell us how far ahead we are in terms of the process, but I did want to acknowledge staff and thank them for the amount of work that they've put into this. It is an extraordinary amount of work, and often people don't see, because it happens behind the scenes. They see the debate that happens in this arena and don't necessarily see all the work that goes on behind the scenes. So I just wanted to publicly acknowledge staff and thank you very much for all of the effort that you've gone to. And the one councillor that I want to acknowledge this morning is Councillor Melanie Coker for wearing Christmas decorations to the council meeting, just as a reminder that Christmas is near. And I really appreciate the fact that you've brought some joy to the world, as it were, and to the table today. So if I could hand over to you, Peter, and you could introduce the presentation. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you and good morning. Look, as the Mayor said, this is a new process for us. In fact, I think it may, as far as I know, be we're the only council in New Zealand doing this at the moment. The point is to make transparent to both all the councillors, the public, the media, what the councillors have raised as issues for the annual plan, what the community boards have raised as issues, and to make transparent the staff advice around those so that everybody can understand what complexity is around those proposals. It doesn't mean that we have decisions at this point. The decision will actually on the annual plan will only be made in February next year, and then it will go out for community engagement in March and April. So at this stage we have the issues and the staff advice. Today, of course, is not a decision-making forum, but it is to have a healthy discussion about where we're at, what the constraints and risks are, notably around things like the capital program, and to give everybody an early heads up on where the annual plan is headed. There will be another, we've come off the back of a lot of briefings, as you remember, through November and October. There will be another meeting in January, and then there will be the meeting to discuss and adopt a draft annual plan on the 24th of February. So this morning, I'll introduce the overall framework. Leah will talk to the financials, Ruth will talk to the capital program, and Katie's with us to talk about options on community engagement next year. So that's the program. We've got 2 hours. It may not take all that time. It depends on how much detail you want to get into. So unless there are any questions, I might kick straight off through there.
Far away.
The long-term plan, as the Mayor flagged, we invested a huge amount of time in getting that right, and I think that's why we're able to be in the position we are now. It's probably been a decade since this council was in this position at this time of year in terms of an annual plan. And that's simply because annual plans pre-earthquake were very simple. We're now in a much more complex space, but we have all of your thinking and all of the staff responses ready to go before Christmas. Now, you'll recall that most years we tend to spill into January and February and we're playing catch up. This year we're not. However, some things have changed since the long-term plan. We're all obviously aware of COVID, but the knock-ons around supply chain, logistics, risk, all the labour, skill shortages, they weren't part of the long-term plan. So as I said earlier, we're looking to put this in an open setting before anything lands and have a healthy, informed debate at an early stage. The two key themes of this annual plan right from the jump were deliverability and affordability. Ruth is going to talk, there's some very strong science around the deliverability of what's being proposed. In terms of affordability, the long-term plan had us for this coming year at 4.97%. The way things are shaping broadly at the moment, we're slightly below that rather than above, despite all the complexity of the year. Ruth will talk in detail about the supply chain and inflation issues. Katie will give you options around engagement, remembering that this isn't a complete strategic plan for the city. That's what the long-term plan was. This is changes that we need to make to respond to our external environment. So we need to think carefully about how we'll engage with people on that. And of course, it doesn't include Three Waters because Three Waters are, well, you all know the story with where they are.
Would you like to elaborate?
I think...
We've only got 2 hours.
Yeah.
The draft water service entities bill, the exposure draft, is now public, so that
Yes.
just became public this morning.
And as I understand it, the legislation is now held over till next year. So, no, I don't think I can elaborate. I'm probably not smart enough. Leah will talk to you about the financials, in particular the rates position, inflationary pressures. We'll then go through your proposals for cap. Okay, back again. Now, we're not doing that on a line-by-line basis because I'm pretty sure we all want to get on with life, but the discussion will be open around exceptions and clarifications and points of interest, and then we move through. So I guess, unless there are any questions about that preface, we might move straight into the financials. Okay.
Good morning, everyone. Just today, I just wanted to again recap some of the challenges that we will continue to work through during this period. We are doing this obviously until our final annual plan is adjusted. These things are the things that may impact that going forward. So obviously inflation at the moment, every year we have inflation upgrades in our numbers. However, where inflation forecasts are at the moment, they are probably a bit light. And currently, if we go to the forecast, OPEX is estimated to be about 1% higher than the LTP and CAPEX of 0.5. Potential impact on rates would be 0.45% on rates for OPEX and 0.02 in that year, in the 2022-23 year. So it's only more so minor. Medium term, marginal higher OPEX and CAPEX. You flip over. Thank you. This is a graph that we just wanted to show you from an inflation point of view of where it gets to. You'll see that it does tend to balance out over a longer period, but it is something that we need to keep in mind when we go through this. Our approach at this stage is to hold and review in April, May, post the draft annual plan, whether inflation forecasts are easing as predicted. Noting that interest rates and inflation, there is a linkage because the increasing of interest rates is usually a method that they use to try and help with the inflation. So you'll see on the next slide we are increasing our interest rate costs up. So we don't want to double dip at this stage, but this will be something that we may need to adjust for in that final annual plan. Talking about interest rates, there has been a material change in the interest rates in November impacting our next 3 years. The increase to net servicing costs in FY23 alone is 5.4 million, noting 70% of our debt forecasting hedging position is already there. That is a 0.91% rates increase. Again, we will continue to mitigate this as much as we can by utilising cash on hand to reduce our borrowing requirements in that year and recognising forecast capital carry forwards of 50 million from FY 2021 current year. This overall is the gross interest costs. So this gives you an indication, this graph, of where our LTP was and where we are now forecasting based on. This is gross interest though, so it includes, so there is some on lending interest that we get recovered, but it just is a good indication of how much those interest costs have increased. Currently, our rates position, Peter said before that the LTP had a forecast of 4.97 rates increase. Where we are at the moment, based on the current staff advice, obviously noting no decisions have been made, that is looking around 4.9. As an indication for you, and it's not it does move. So additional OPEX of 5.9 million will result in a 1% increase in rates. And CAPEX, because interest rates are rising, at this stage, additional CAPEX of 95 million is, noting 80% of that is in the following year, is effectively 1% increase in rates. And this graph just highlights the LTP that we had for current rates position, and you can see that the draft, because of course, even though we are talking about the draft annual plan for next year, we need to keep remembering that decisions we make next year have impact on the following years. So you can see, so even though we won't consult on the following years, this shows you the impact of decisions made in that year will have on the future years. And this is again the same table, but not the same information, but in a table, and also takes into account our headroom from the debt point of view. And on that note, unless there's any questions, we'll move on to capital.
So Peter and Leah have already spoken about affordability. That's one of the key principles of the capital program also. Another key principle for the capital program is deliverability. So this table essentially shows that our previous performance has hovered at the $400 million core budget. At the moment, we are forecasting 94% against financial year 22 and proposing a core program of 433.8 for financial year 23. We're currently forecasting 94% against financial year 22, which is just over 400 mil. So in terms of the current environment, and Peter has touched on this already, we're in a different environment than we were when we set the LTP. COVID-19 impacts, we're experiencing supply chain and cost escalation risks and issues across our capital program. There's also human resource risks and issues, both internally and externally, in terms of technical resources and retention of staff. We've also got our reform program. So all of these are essentially going to be impacting on our capital program in the future as they are now. So we are working against these and mitigating against the risks as much as we can by taking a program view, ordering things early and engaging with our supply and our contractor market proactively. And we do provide you with a view of that at the Capital Project Performance Report each month at Finance and Performance Committee, and we'll continue to do that as well. In terms of the current phase that our projects are sitting for financial year 23, so we always plan and design in advance so that we have the majority of projects in construction once we hit that financial year. In financial year 23, we're definitely in a great spot for that. So this speaks to deliverability, but it also speaks to flexibility in terms of what we are able to do into financial year 23 at this stage. So 38% of our budget, our projects are already in construction, and 86% of our budget is in design, procurement and construction. So our ability to actually move things around in financial year 23 is limited. So our proposed budget for financial year 23, you can see there that our current budget, which includes financial year 21 carry forward, is sitting at 475 for our core program. Staff are proposing a reduction of 41.6, which would take us to a $433.9 million core program. So we will talk to the deliverability of 433.9 versus the 400 million previous performance that you've seen shortly. So you can see there's a proposed reduction in most activity groups. There are some key reasons for some of the increases that we will speak to. Corporate capital reflects the current phasing for Performing Arts Precinct, and transport reflects delivery schedules of projects, including developer timeframes. And then the CMUA and Parakiori reduction down there at the bottom of the table reflects the current project schedule for CMUA, the multi-use arena. So speaking specifically to the current proposed 433.9 versus the previous performance of $400 million, which is what we've been able to do in the last 3 years. Just by way of context, before I'll ask the heads of service to speak to deliverability of their units, we had a long-term plan adopted for a core program of 430 million, and that reflects an increased investment in Three Waters, as well as the decision to continue with our community and our major facilities, those of which listed on the slide. Current approved, you'll recall from the previous slide, currently sitting at 475.5, which includes our carry forward from financial year 21. And we're now proposing an annual plan of 433.9, so relatively close back to what was adopted in the long-term plan. So in terms of specific deliverability per unit, I'll ask for Paul Dadson to speak to major facilities, community and parks.
So I don't have a lot to add to what's on the slide there. So major facilities is two major projects driving that program. That's the Hornby Centre, which is currently in construction and obviously will be next year. And the other one is the Performing Arts Precinct, currently into late design. And the plan at the moment is that will be in construction next year. So that's driving most of the major facilities program. The community facilities, that is largely in line with what we've done in the past. So we have shifted Jelly Park out of that currently into 23 out to 24. And that is around the network availability. We want to wait until Parakiori and Hornby are open before we actually shut down at Jelly Park. And then the parks program, that reflects this year's budget. So we have moved some of the program out, or pushed some of the money out there to be able to allow and bring it into line with the current year, which we think is deliverable at this point. So those are the major changes in where we're sitting in terms of deliverability for those areas of the program.
And then the next major unit is transport. So ask Lynette to come up, currently proposing a budget of 154. Key point here is that they have proven a step change over the last couple of years, and they're currently forecasting over their program this year.
Kia ora koutou. Transport's been working for the last about 4 years to work to about 100 million core budget every year, and this is what we've planned through here. It is a slight increase, but we have been working to aim to deliver that by having plenty of contracts out in the market and keep moving forward with the same progress. So it's about the consistency of having the budgets on each year allows us to keep the program of work up and rolling. So that's what gives us confidence around the deliverability.
Yeah, excellent. And then finally, Three Waters. So proposing...
Just before it may be inappropriate, but congratulations, Lynette, first time in public to
Thank you very much.
Your new role as head of service for transport. So thank you very much for taking up the role. Thank you.
No shenanigans today.
No shenanigans today.
Yeah, shenanigans soon.
Alrighty. And then Three Waters. So proposing a financial year budget of 190, and that compares to an average spend of 149.
So Three Waters, as noted earlier, we're stepping up the program in the Three Waters area. So there's a challenge in resourcing that. The challenges are internal and external. So the consultants as well as the contractors need to gear up to deliver this bigger program. And of course, it's happening all the way across the country. So everybody has increased their investment in Three Waters, and we're competing for those resources. So we've got a number of actions in place to ensure that spend. Ironically, the supply chain issues and those escalations in cost sort of help. But that doesn't actually get you more length of pipe, it just makes that length of pipe more expensive. What does it mean? How does it help? Sometimes you measure us on how much we spend and challenge the deliverability because we haven't spent all of the budget.
Helen was expressing an ironic version.
I did say, ironically, that helps.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
God.
it was an ironic expression.
All right. If someone can grab the defib unit.
I was like, that's not the hell I'm doing,
We're getting very close to the end of the year.
For all of us.
End of life at these increases.
Sorry, Tim, did you...
Yeah, we're stepping up our Three Waters, which you've explained and we talked about. So we're also stepping up with regards to, and I know Yanni goes on quite a lot about this, about the water leaks and the teams that are going.
Yes, so we have 3 things in place for the water leaks. One is a weekly overview of what's happening with the water leaks and keeping the maintenance contractors on the job. The second thing is the pressure reduction program around the city, so we're that new water zoning and pressure reduction, which will reduce the amount of leaks that you see. And thirdly, that increased expenditure in the water supply mains and sub-mains renewals, which is the biggest impact on the water leaks. So there's three things happening there.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, Yanni?
Thanks. Just two questions. Congratulations on launching the new online water reporter. That's fantastic. Yes. Just wanted to check though, some addresses can't come up. Do we know what the issue is there? Is that a
Yes, so we don't yet have 100% coverage with the quarterly reading of meters, and that's the reason why some addresses won't come up. My daughter and my son are closely watching theirs, and my daughter's has come up and her bill was $32, so she's going to fix the leak on the toilet system. And my son is one of those who's a keen gardener, but his meter hasn't been read quarterly, so he's put in a request and we'll check those because there are some streets that are being missed. Right. And the water reporter is helping us track those down and work with the contractor to ensure that we're getting those quarterly reads.
Oh, that's good. Has that been delayed because of COVID, has it? Or
no, it's just the change from reading those residential meters once every 2 years to once every quarter has required a big step up in resources with our meter reading contractor.
So when do you think we're likely to have everyone's water meter read?
100% of water meters across the city.
For the quarter, yeah. So everyone can go on and
over the next year, I expect we'll get to there.
Thanks.
Yeah.
And then the second
question. Can you make sure that the guy from News Talk ZB, John McDonald, can get his read as well? He advised me on Monday on the radio that he was having trouble getting on.
Yeah. And so, just in regards to, so obviously we've just done the stormwater management plans and we're putting them into ECAN on the 20th. Of December. In regards to the costs associated with those, are you able to give us a sense of, like in the previous LTP, we were advised that we don't have enough money to stop our water quality from degrading, and so if we wanted to improve water quality, is there anything in this budget that stops our water from degrading and keeps it? Hopefully gets it better, improves it, but actually stops it from getting worse.
So as requested at the Three Waters Infrastructure and Environment Committee, we are going to get a memo to you on the water quality improvements works that could be done if you increase the budget, but we haven't got that fully together for you yet.
Right.
That is more likely to inform the long-term plan.
It would be in time for us to consider an amendment into the annual plan.
Should be the timing.
It should be in time for that, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
However, if there are serious capital works, we wouldn't recommend an amendment to the annual plan. We would recommend those go into the long-term plan.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. The larger ones do need to go into the LTP process because you'd have to consult on them in a different way.
That's correct.
But if we can look at something below that line for the annual plan amendments, I think that would be appropriate.
We'll certainly get that to you before Christmas.
I guess what I was trying to understand though, just in terms of the draft annual plan, is the changes in expenditure going to do anything to reduce
we're getting a memo.
Increase water degradation?
There'll be no change compared to the long-term plan, essentially.
We're going to get a memo,
Okay,
so
thanks.
that's going to be very helpful. Thank you. All right.
Thank you.
Good.
Oh, you want to go through the detail?
Yes.
Yeah. All right. So we've got quite a little. I've got a lot of detail here, which is why I've got Mark here, because there are some changes to our internal processes and to our resourcing to enable us to deliver these programs. So the first one is that we've got some new governance structures in place, and what we're proposing to do here is reduce the number of change requests that come through, essentially, and deliver that program a little more efficiently. We are reviewing our hybrid delivery model, panels that we run, and we've changed some of those. We've extended one of those panels, and we're lining up for the renewal of those panel arrangements in the future. We are recruiting actively at the moment, and as I noted, that market is quite tight, and I am shamelessly poaching staff from other councils who are also looking for staff. So, yep, that is going to be a problem right across the country. Luckily, Christchurch is still regarded as a great place to live. So, you know, we do have a bit of an advantage there, and work, indeed. Red play. Oh, no, I'm not part of urban design. No, just work. Okay, so we are also recruiting project managers. Again, there's a bit of competition there, but we're working on that, and we will require more again in the future. One of the other things is making sure that that we're feeding that production line at the front end. So that's initiating projects. So that making sure that we've got the briefs and the scopes in place well before we want to get shovels in the ground. So that's underway at the moment. And the next one. So delivery mechanisms, so that is bundling projects, so that we get bundles of work in a geographic area across a number of years in place with one contractor, and they can roll those out and deliver them, say, over a 3 to 5 year period. This is the sort of work that's being done up in Wellington, and we've been watching what they're doing, and we'd like to roll that out down here. So I'm happy to take any questions. Jimmy?
Your previous slides particularly mentioned the financial year 23 is proposed $190 million, but your current year is only the deliverable is only 83%. So
Yes.
whether it's the $37 million will be carried forward.
So yes, we do have a large carry forward, and that is part of the reason why we've recommended a smaller capital budget for next year.
Yeah, but this one particular for all those the risk like your cost acceleration, COVID-19, and also those kind of the you have a supply chain, etc. Am I right? That's mean those.
That's correct, which is why we've put these initiatives in place to try and accelerate delivery.
Yes.
And remember that there are cost escalations out there as well, which are likely to hit some of our projects.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
So the remaining slides are Councillor and Community Board proposals with their staff advice. So I think we'll take these as read. And if there's any questions, we're happy to ask them.
So, yeah, Aaron.
Just when you gave the early slide of all the various pressures that are driving inflation and everything else, supply chain, people, all of the problems that are going with, the conversation must need to be had at some point, and water's in the same boat, that around councils and governments pulling back on spending rather than increasing spending. Like, is the industries as a whole looking at that? Because with the pressure going on and the increase of work, the prices will only go north. They can't go south. That's not how a market works. So are those conversations being had, or are all councils just going to keep trying to poach people and buy the last 5 pipes and the last 1,000 tonnes of steel? Because it's a bidding war.
I don't know that that's really a question for...
But it affects our budget massively
So, no, I know,
and what we
but
can
it's,
deliver.
I'm thinking that it's more of a political debate, and with also advice from our chief executive,
Well, or even the CEs around the country having that, and of departments and councils having the conversation going, are we doing it right? Because
Well, I have to say
we can't afford it.
I also flinched when I heard the word poached, because we've all experienced that after the earthquakes,
Yep.
when there was quite a challenge placed on the 3 councils, Christchurch, Waimakariri and Selwyn, with respect to the amount of consenting work that was required, for example. But that, it is a conversation that I think is potentially worthy of having. I don't know if you'd like to respond to it at all.
Certainly, Mayor. Councillor, the reality is we've actually already refocused our capital programme from 2 years ago to say what can we actually deliver in the market, and we are continually, as you've seen, reviewing that, hence why we're saying bring the capital programme back down to 433 million rather than being the 470s, so we have realism in that. We will continue to review that. The challenge for local government, not just this council, is for us to be an attractive sector that people in New Zealand outside of local government wish to come and working, not just from within local government. And I can say to you, because I do the introduction sessions for all new employees, what I am seeing in the last 6 months is we are attracting people from outside the sector. Actually, the majority are outside the sector rather than from within. So that actually means there's new blood coming in as well. We have to be continually looking at the situation as it stands because of the challenges of COVID. Aaron, you're absolutely right.
And you are correct. But globally, it's a problem because almost everywhere in the world at the moment, governments and councils are all greenlighting projects to stimulate economies. But there's only so many pipes, bits of steel, and that available. So everything becomes a bidding war. And unless they all collectively hit the brakes a little, the problem can only get worse. It cannot get better. Because all resources are finite.
So the focus of this, though, presentation, this part of the presentation, are the sorts of projects that we have indicated will be included in the draft annual plan. So staff have kind of been given the guidance that these are the additional projects that go in there that weren't in the LTP in that year. I mean, a lot of them are bring forward projects, and then the items that haven't been included in the draft annual plan. And I think councillors have indicated that with some of them that they will bring them forward as amendments, which will be dealt with as a process. But it will, as I say, this is a daylighting exercise. It's to enable people to see what we've looked at, the sorts of projects, the Greers Langdon's traffic lights, for example, I didn't think that was in there. Anyway, there are a range of projects that are in, and then there are projects that are additional information requested, and that again is an enabling one that may result in things being included in the budget and other things not being included in the draft that then goes out for consultation.
And we are clear on that slide of things that we don't believe you should include in the annual plan. Obviously, it's for members when you get to February to debate those matters and to tell us whether you wish to have them.
And the only reason I raise it this early is it responsible of a council to keep spending when the prices are going in the wrong direction? We must look to do the opposite. That's all. So just raising it here because I think it is irresponsible, especially if interest rates are going north and all the costings are going north. It's really wrong. It's a little alarm bell. I'll just ring.
But we're not going to stop delivering our capital program.
So we've just sent a signal to the market. We'll keep spending.
No. We're not going to stop it. We're not going to stop doing work.
But we could stop adding.
It's a question that you're talking about is around the capacity to do extra. Or in your suggestion to cut it away to
because it appears that we never get like an economist to throw an eye over things and throw up where the red lights are in our entire budgets. We have everyone else do it, but not.
Isn't it that intersection?
I think we have heard from Leah in terms of the challenges, and we're all very mindful of them as we go into what is a relatively minor amendment process compared to the LTP process. So, Jake, you had your hand up.
I did. Thank you. Great to see Greening the East is on the list. That, along with the streetscape that's out for consultation in February, is going to be quite transformational for that area. So I just wanted to say that. But my question is around the Central City shuttle. That was initially supposed to have a report at the end of this calendar year. I'm assuming that the information up there means next year in time to inform our LTP.
It's the end of this calendar year.
So
you'll get a report by the end of this calendar year.
Right.
As in this month.
As in this month, yes.
Right. Okay. So it's okay. Well, that's great news. No question.
It will be with you before Christmas.
Wow. Okay.
Sam.
Yeah, just one, and it's probably not on that slide, so I don't know if that helps. Sorry, I didn't realise we were asking questions on the way through. So Lynette, it was around transport. If we could flick back potentially to that one. It was just to get a sense of, and I appreciate this is the first time we're doing this in sort of this domain, so it's not a problem at all. But can we just get a sense within transport of how it's broken down? So, of the value, what proportions, footpaths, roads, cycleways, bus stops, all that kind of stuff.
Not off the top of my head, I can't give you that, but I can
It would be good
give
to
you a
circulate.
breakdown. You remember through the LTP, we largely broke the program down into 3 core pillars of safety, access and environment, and that the bulk of the funding sits under that access space, which is where we've got all our road resurfacing or our street renewals, footpath replacements and all that sort of roads and footpaths work that you would normally have called it historically. The safety is all of the work that we're doing around the safety program, and then and that's approximately a third. And I'd have to come back with a
it would be
proportion,
useful to
but-
get that just so we can visualise, in what pot.
Oh, hang on. I can probably tell you
You've
right
got it?
now.
Even better.
Here's one I prepared earlier. I did too well, didn't I? So we've got safety, access and environment. So in the split, access is, like I talked about, the roads and footpaths. That works out at approximately 60 million over the first, for that year of that. Environment, and you have to remember that's the core program, and I'm talking a total program here. So environment is working out at about 55, which is our PT, walking. So we've got new footpaths and all that goes into there. So all our active travel, PT and cycling budgets all sit in there. So that's got all the shovel-ready funding in it from the government as well for the cycleways. And we've got about 40 million. So it is sort of broadly thirds sitting in safety.
I think what would be really useful, because transport's raised so often, if we could maybe get just like literally a one graphic that we can share with the public that says, roading, footpaths, cycleways, but then to give it context, say, of the cycleways, this much is paid for by central government, and of the footpaths, this much is paid for by central government, just at a high level. Is that possible?
So, Lynette, I suggest you do that in your monthly
Monthly
reporting
report,
report.
yeah. I'll do that for the next.
No,
Or it
I'm
might,
talking.
it might be in the
It can
consultation
be in the
document.
consultation.
Yeah, I'm talking in reference to the 154 million.
Yes, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But in the consultation document, if we could again daylight that image,
Yeah.
then it gives people a real set of context.
That
for
would
the
be great.
numbers. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'll
perfect.
look to get that through at least for the next UDAT meeting after Christmas, which will be
As
time
well.
for this as
Yeah,
well.
if you want
Make
to do
sure we can
both,
tie it all
that's
together.
great.
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I'll just note that item 5 on the capex for transport, that may not be proceeding, but we're just waiting for the community board to get another briefing on it.
I'll just teach you.
Yeah, no, well, I just texted you. Yeah,
What's item 5?
yeah,
Oh yeah, no, not bad.
yeah, very discoverable. No, it's just that the school's being rebuilt in the centre of so it's 2 schools being merged, but I think they're going to come back and show you what. Show you.
I am.
Yeah, cool. I just wanted to highlight it so that there was no doubt about it. All right, so shall we move on to the next slide?
So these are the slides we're taking as read. So if there's any questions around any of these, Transport 3 Waters or Parks.
Yeah. Well, that's where we are at the moment. There may be some councillors that want to
Going up.
proceed
Yeah.
with that. Yanni, we're on to we've done that one, haven't we? We'll move on to that one, Parks. Is that the one, Parks? So again, there's a number of items not to be included in the draft. That doesn't mean that councillors won't pick them up as individual amendments, and we'll have a process for that. and of course then there is the actual engagement process as well. All right, next one. Sorry? Yep.
Sorry.
Which one? But go
Just
back.
on the parks, I was just
Yep.
trying to check when the sports, is it the sports parks or the sports facilities network plan will be decided? So this is all the engagement we've done with all the sporting codes
Yep.
around where the priorities are for the sporting parks.
Yep. So my understanding is it's been issued out to the regional sports network. So, mainland football, etc., Canterbury Rugby for their final feedback before it comes to council for release.
It's not very far away.
Will it be in time to inform the draft annual plan?
Beg your pardon?
Will it be in time to inform the draft annual plan?
I'll have to talk to Kelly and find out
Okay.
exactly what her program is.
Right. And will it go out for...
But what I would say is council's, as part of a previous request in relation to Centennial Park, I think you asked for what the current renewal program looks like, and I believe you've all been sent that.
Yeah, we've had that.
If that network plan did come back, and same for all of those items not included, and I think I've said this many times, deliverability is our issue.
Yeah.
If there's a desire to change, it's a swap.
Yeah.
It's not additional. We do not have the ability or capacity to add more projects.
Right. Yep. So I just wasn't clear if the sports facilities plan will then go out for as a draft for consultation and then need to be approved.
That's correct. It will.
So even if we get the draft, it still won't be finalised until the end of next year.
Like I say, I need to check on the program, but it'll go out for a month and then come back to council for approval.
It
I think it'd be
probably
useful.
is an LTP issue, Yanni. I know that.
Also, it was raised in 2015.
Yes, I understand
so
that, and
7
I'm
years.
completely aware of how long this has taken. But there have been other challenges that have been put in front, especially this team. So, and there have been a number of other issues that they've had to deal with. So, I'm not of the view that we have to have that in time for the annual plan. We certainly will have it in time for the next LTP. So that's good.
Okay. Can I just check the other question that we're in this chicken and egg environment where I try and put forward projects in the older brownfields areas that are getting intensified, like Waltham, and I'm told we can't attract DCs because we don't have a project, and this says no budget, so we can't have a project. So, the idea that we've talked about many times around this chicken and egg of we've got a whole bunch of growth in the brownfields, the older established brownfields, working class suburbs. They're not getting green space. The trees are getting removed on private developments.
This isn't
how do we
parks. This is not a question.
Yeah, it's
for
parks. So how do we put parks projects
I'm
indicated
sorry,
for growth?
You're asking another question, which is a bigger question, which it links.
Well, if you take 30,
intensification. Look, I'm not disagreeing with
New
you
green space
in
in Sprayton
terms of the
purchased
importance of the issue. Intensification and the suburbs that you're talking about have the potential and have actually delivered in many instances what I would describe as urban blight. And the only way that we can seek to address that is by looking at other means of resourcing green space and other ways of matching that. But we haven't, there's a lot of work that goes into that, and it's not for, with due respect, it's not for our parks people who are here talking about elements to be included in the next annual plan.
But when we did the DC's policy, we were told, we can't add projects in.
Yanni, I understand your issue, but I'm saying that Andrew is not the person to be asking the question of.
Well, who's the person? Because, honestly, this has been going on for 5 years.
You have been raising it for a number of years, and it does need to be drawn to a head. So I'll talk to the Chief Executive about a way forward on that, but it is not on this item. So thank you very much, Andrew. And we'll move... Oh, sorry.
So I support that work that Yanni's talking about because it's happening in my area too. Yeah.
Regarding item 36, 37, all consider whether need to set up those dog parks. I just want know whether officer have any overall, multi kind of factor analysis, consider like a population growth or the pets, the dogs, etc., have a number, etc., and then consider prioritize. Rather than just local community post request, we mention we show of the resources, we can do it. We don't have at least a criteria to set up.
Yeah, sure. And I mean, it's very obvious in the I guess the information that's come through from community boards. There's a raised interest in identifying appropriate locations for dog parks. It does need to be planned. It doesn't need to be a complex plan. Probably, I'm not sure if you're aware, but including a new dog park also requires a change to a bylaw. And so it's really important that we come back to council with an overarching plan. And I guess, I'm sure you're all aware there's a lot of spatial planning going on at the moment in regard to RMA reform. And both the previous matter and this matter are things that we should be considering at that level. So they really are ideally suited to, dog parks, to having better information in front of you. And we've started work on this, spatially, on dog parks for the LTP, so that it is a properly considered plan that you're talking about.
Thank you very much. Much appreciated. Right, next slide. The citizens and community. Yep, next slide. And now we move on to operational expenditure.
Again, we'll take these as read. This just gives us a list of the ones that have currently been added into the annual plan and the ones that we're not suggesting at this stage. So it's just if there's any questions. And these ones, there's a couple of these ones that we will bring back more information to the 27th of January meeting. But other than that, again, there's more information required. Fees and charges, again at the 27th, so we've talked about there's relatively small increases with respect to council inflation. The Rec and Sport charges have been completed, the restructuring of them. A full schedule of the proposed fees and charges will be provided to the councillors in mid-January, and there'll be a briefing time for any clarification and discussion on the 27th of January.
Pauline.
Sorry, Leanne. Just going back to the previous slide. It was a bit
Back to the previous slide.
Number 51, the Community Waterways Partnership funding request. What is the information that we're waiting for with that?
This was just more so, I think it was at the last briefing that the councillors asked for a wee bit more information, so we've got more staff advice, which I think you've received today in the pack. So it was sort of just why this was put in this area was the first two, there was quite clear direction from the previous briefings. This one there wasn't, so these are the ones that we will talk further through now that we're giving some of the advice. Some of the advice has been provided in the spreadsheet you received today, and some of it hasn't.
Yeah, so sort of more detail around exactly what it was for and whether we can negotiate the amount perhaps or tie them with other efficiencies.
Yeah, but just in terms of hedging one's bets, I would suggest that people focus their amendments in these areas if they're not included, so if the recommendation is not to include. So, Yanni.
Thank you. Just in regards to fees and charges, are we able to get some information about the car parking revenue versus the budget and for both on street and off street? Given that we did put the fees up quite considerably, I mean, for example, I went to the Art Gallery car park this morning and no one's in there, and it's got very high charges. So I'm interested in understanding whether we're kind of looking at what's happening and reducing charging to get more people using those spaces and maybe even get more revenue.
Yeah, the challenge that we have at the moment though is from when those fees were put up in the last 3 months, 4 months, we've had COVID, which has impacted it, so it's very hard to compare like for like. So yes, we can get the data, but it's I'm not sure it's going to inform your decisions as to where you talk, what you're.
Yeah, I don't think after we've been out for a consultation in our LTP that we should then go out for another consultation annual plan.
just to understand what was happening in terms of the revenue. We might be losing money because we've made the car parking so expensive.
He's raised it at the committee before, and we've already been told that we don't have enough data at this point of time to actually, make any informed decision, and we have to wait for the data.
So
Yes, I know you want data, but the thing is that meaningful data is actually more helpful when it's monitored over a period of time.
Correct.
My knowledge of the art gallery car park is that a lot of people don't know it's there, and it's often underutilised. And anyway, so thank you. Next slide.
Katie will come up now to talk to that, but just while Katie's...
Sorry.
Sorry, just one while you're both there. And it's probably an overarching one, just so I'm really, really clear in my mind around the carry forwards. So like you take Three Waters, for example, where we're at 190 and they're struggling to sort of get there this year, but they made a heap of changes. That 190 will include the carry forwards, won't it?
The 190 at the moment doesn't include the carry forwards. So there will be carry forwards from this year, but they don't necessarily need to go into next year. So depending on where we're at in terms of deliverability, we would assess how much of that carry forward go into next year and push it out into further years of the LTP.
Right. So the figure, so the deliverability figure still stays at 190.
That's right.
It's the work program that
That's
gets
right.
pushed back.
Exactly.
Okay. Cool. Thank you.
Well, can I just add to that? It is not an automatic right to assume that there will be carry forwards in terms of individual areas of our business. That needs to be properly assessed in terms of how we deal with each of the elements, and then we will make a recommendation whether anything should go forward, and if so, into which year.
Yeah, well, I guess what I'm trying to get at though, and it's something Andrew and I've raised for a while, is around if we're putting 190, take Three Waters for example, we're putting 190 on budget for it. We haven't delivered this year because the team have quite rightly said there's been some challenges and they've made some changes. How do we get visibility over what hasn't been delivered and then is pushed into the next year, and then what's pushed back further? So we just need clarity on that.
Be good to have that really explicit.
Yeah.
You will get visibility at the end of the year, because don't forget, any carry forwards have to be approved. So you will get the visibility of that.
So then is that so that comes back to what I'm trying to understand, and it might be something I'm better to talk to you guys offline about, but so is that a financial carry forward or a project carry forward?
So it's a financial carry forward, but you'll recall last year at Finance and Performance in the June report we provided you visibility of performance against what you'd agreed in the annual plan, so you could see what projects had pushed out and the impact of that on the delivery date. So you could see what you'd agreed to versus what we did.
Well, I guess what I'm trying to get to though is if we haven't delivered say $30 million in Three Waters, does that now make it $220 million that we've got to try and achieve, or there'll be stuff pushed out at the back end?
Yeah, it doesn't necessarily impact on financial year 23. We would agree where that budget would go.
And it will depend on the deliverability.
Exactly.
Yeah.
To put it in perspective for you, so we have assumed from our financials and the work that we're doing right now, given we're only in December, so not even halfway through the year, we're working on the basis of 50 million carry forward of the whole program, and not all of. I think there's only 10 million of that that's actually planned to go into FY23, based on our assumptions. So you can say so. The work the team is doing is actually very focusing on what they can deliver next year, and that's what you're seeing here. So yes, at the moment it is going forward, but not necessarily all into that year.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
Thank you.
This is so much further advanced than where it was when we first arrived in terms of the confidence around deliverability.
Yeah, and it's just, again, not that Andrew I ever missed the opportunity, the program approvals and how that line of sight for us.
Yeah. Andrew.
Yep, so it is. It's the reprioritisation within programmes of work. So where there are projects that are not deliverable in year and therefore are carry forwards, also we're aware. I mean, we tend to look at this in terms of the numbers, in terms of the budget, rather than the actual projects. Yeah. So it's so that we've got visibility not only of what's going to be carried forward into the next year because we haven't delivered it, but what's brought back to make up the shortfall. So we may deliver 95% of the financial target for that particular capital area, but the projects which are delivered may be different than those that we originally expected when we approved the LTP or the annual plan. So it's getting visibility of that as well. And my understanding is there's a piece of work underway, and I mean, Sam's absolutely right. It will resolve an issue that we've been talking about for some time, and I'm guessing that's the reason why it's taken some time to put it together.
Almost there.
Cool. Right, thank you.
Every challenge you give me, I keep on moving it on, closing it off, moving on to the next one.
Just a brief
We've
note
gone-
while Katie's coming up. Item 57, Takaro Avon River Corridor. There is now a draft activity plan. It integrates all the bodies of work around that significant legacy project for the city. We'll try to foreshadow that for you before the January 27th meeting.
Yep.
So you're across it before the annual plan debate in February.
Great. I
Okay.
think that it'll be well received because, I mean, I know that people don't get excited about activity management plans, but the people that are passionate about the Otakaro Avon River Corridor, they can see the sense of bringing together all of the projects into one activity plan, and it will tie in with the co-governance model as well. Thank you. Right, context for level of engagement and consultation. Katie.
Kia ora koutou. So, relatively little change as we've discussed from the LTP, note the points there. But also a point I'd like to make that 2022, Q1 and Q2 are likely to be really busy periods of time for engagement and consultation. We have a lot of very significant projects that are hoping to consult with the public at that time. So it's important we consider that in the context of the annual plan consultation as well. Moving to the second slide, I'm just going to whistle through. So what we're proposing, given the nature of this annual plan, we are sort of like pitching it in mostly informed, though obviously we'll meet all of the expectations of the Local Government Act in relation to consultation. We're really going to be focusing on telling the story, building on the messages that we started with the LTP and confirming our overall direction. We'll be focusing on plain language and really drilling down into making information available in a variety of formats to suit as many people as possible. So we'll have the full consultation document there for people who like a long read. There'll be the website for the quicker overview with links to more information. We'll be updating that online tool that we introduced for the first time with the LTP to show visual representation of our CAPEX and OPEX. We're going to be doing a summary document, so that's the light read to give people a flavour of what's proposed. And we're going to be doing posters, there's options for videos. We'll be relying on our usual communication channels such as Newsline here at Council. We'll be mixing it up with face-to-face and online engagement, given that we never quite know where we are with COVID. We'll be going to the community meetings, seeing if we can get on the guest list of existing community meetings. We're also looking at what options we have to host our own meetings and possibly doing that over Zoom. And we're out for a 4-week period of engagement. Are there any questions?
You'll be calling for submissions though, won't you?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. We're completely, as per the Act, we are consulting.
Yeah.
It's just making sure we're pitching it at the right level to set expectations correctly.
This is not the big
it is not the big
plan.
all singing, all dancing long-term
No.
plan. This is a steady as she goes. This is what you'd expect to see.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Anne.
Kia ora, thanks. It's going to be really busy, and I'm just wondering, with the working party that we've established on engagement, how will we kind of work together going forward with that? I'm thinking particularly of pre-engagement.
For the annual plan?
Yes.
So making sure that people are aware that it's coming up, or are we talking about the other consultations?
I guess it's about what kind of input are we going to have from those groups that we've identified who are interested in the way that the annual plan is engaged, is developed, the engagement plan. Is there an opportunity for that to happen?
And those groups is in the working group?
Yes, the working group and the groups that we hear from, those from multicultural communities.
So we'll be making sure that people are aware of the consultation period coming up, so that they've got sort of like line of sight on when we're going to be going out for submissions, but also obviously interested to talk to them about the wider program of consultation and engagement that's happening at Council as well.
So there may not be an opportunity for that conversation to happen with the annual plan. It might be too late for that. But what I'm thinking of is sort of their perspective on what will work in terms of consultation with those communities.
And always open to feedback from our communities on how best to engage with them.
I'm hoping that will be done through the engagement working party as well. Yep. Cool. Thank you.
Celeste.
Thanks, Katie. It sounds really good. I was just looking through the planned consultations, and quite a few of them have sort of an impact in the coastal ward, with the coastal adaptation planning, the Pages Road draft coastal hazards plan change. Is there sort of a way to figure out how to sort of mitigate the impact of communities trying to juggle different consultation things that are all kind of funneling into a small period of time? I realise it's just the nature of the beast, but
yes, I guess I'm flagging that it is going to be quite busy out there. We will look for efficiencies wherever possible. We'll work with communities to make sure that they're aware of the program. Some of those, some of the consultations will potentially require more community involvement than others, and we'll try to be clear in our expectations on that from the very start. There is a bit up there for the whole of the city. That land-use program work, the district plan changes are going to be huge. So there's going to be a lot of noise.
Yanni.
Is it possible to get ward-based sheets of projects? Like I've just gone onto the tool and I've typed Linwood Ward and I just get nothing comes back.
It's possible that it's a bit in development at the moment, but yes, absolutely, Yanni, we can look at doing the is this the ward-based fact sheets again?
Yeah, I think they're quite useful just to show the
absolutely. I mean, as I think we've discussed before, you can pull that information down from that tool, and we will work with governance teams to make sure that that information is available on a ward-by-ward basis.
Right, and again, like the CPMS sheets are really good because they show over what year, but if I go to the tool, I don't get any sense of the timing of spending or any, I've just pulled one up called bus routes and it's just got, very little information other than budget and funding start and funding finish. Is it possible? I'm just still trying to understand why we can't just have project ID. We click on it and it comes up with the CPMS data that says, here's what year the project funding's in, here's the scope of the project, here's a little bit more details.
So we can work on making as much information as possible, as easily available as possible.
Right.
Jimmy?
Okay, yeah. Regarding to the engagement consultation, demographic, etc., I just want to know whether regarding to our flyers for the annual plan have any different language or not.
We will translate, but it'll be sort of like information to let people know that the consultation has started,
yes,
as opposed to full documentation at the moment. Okay. I'd seek advice on that one, but it's more about making sure that people are aware of the opportunity,
yes,
rather than translating necessarily the full detail. We don't do that for the long-term plan. We just announce the opportunity. In future years, that's definitely something we could look at from a long-term plan perspective.
Okay. The other one is currently, we have a hearing regarding to the draft, the Otatahi Christchurch community strategy. I think that channel, looks like quite effective, So whether we can follow those channel, for instance, like young people engage Christchurch Youth Council, and the multi-ethnic one, we engage with the informed Christchurch Multicultural Advisory Group and some other NGO, etc. Whether we can follow those models.
We obviously make sure that all of those groups and networks are available. Are aware of the consultation starting.
Yes.
And we'll make sure that the effort we put into making sure that they're aware is kind of like matched with the kind of like the decisions and the level of decision making and the expectations that people have on how they can be involved. So we'll absolutely be going out and making people very aware that their opportunity to have their say,
yes,
and through our usual networks and the ones that they have been used through that strategy.
Okay, thank you.
Very good. Right. Conclusion.
Right.
And here's the key messages and next steps. Thank you.
Okay. Look, you can probably tell from that we're in a very strong position. We've come off the back of a deep LTP. We've got the ideas and proposals from councillors and the boards. We've provided a lot of strong technical information around those proposals. The finance team is in a good position to go forward into next year and bring you information to consider in late January, the 27th, and then again at the annual plan adoption of the draft on the 24th of February.
Yeah, so you've still got the 23rd written there, but it's Thursday, the 24th of February, just
Yes.
for those that might be interested at the back there. We've changed it. Rather than have a separate meeting, we're going to have it after the finance and performance meeting on Thursday, the 24th of February.
So we're going into the Christmas break with very few question marks or blank spots on the map. We know where we are. We're in a strong position despite all the noise around COVID. That noise will probably continue next year, as we all know, but we're in a position whereby the content and the process are strong enough and resilient enough that we'll be able to crack on anyway, just as we did through the annual plan and the LTP. So, look, I think that the reason we're in this position is there's been an extraordinary amount of goodwill between staff, councillors and boards so far on this process. We've come in under the LTP rate number. We've got a capital program to take the city forward. There's no strong level of service cuts. It's a strong all-round plan that you'll be asked to consider in February. So that's where we're at, and thank you for your help and goodwill.
Very good. All right. Well, I shall close the meeting. So thank you very much again for the presentation. Thank you, councillors. I think is that the right one? Unuhia te pō whirimarama, tamakia te ao whatu tangata, tatai ki runga, tatai ki raro, tatai aho ro, homie, huie, tai ki e. Kia ora. Thank you.